The sensible sociopath. Sometimes they say f and shit and cum dumpster and
This show is not for you.
You have to be a special kind of crazy.
Smart and creepy.
It's not offensive, it's not standoffish, none of that.
Counterculture, baby.
Oh, lady inclusion.
At what point do you stop considering it a clitoris?
Farts in a barn.
This show's gonna be great.
You all think I have cancer?
Beehive enthusiast community.
So he could fit in a corset and blow himself.
Non-rolling sperm donor.
Why would you say that, Joe? You asshole. You're such an asshole.
Oh, sorry, I thought I hit that.
No problem. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Sensible Sociopath, episode 50.
Hi.
And in this episode, we learn that we haven't got our shit together after 50 episodes. So,
Yay, 50 though.
yes,
Woot woot.
it is a milestone.
It is. You would think that we'd have our shit together.
Yeah. It's really funny because about everything that could go wrong went wrong. And here we are. We made it.
We made it.
Only what? 20 minutes late? 15 minutes late?
We're 20 minutes late.
All right. Thanks for pointing that out, Roma. Jeez. Don't rely on Roma to minimize things.
I thought that's why you hired me.
Yeah, exactly. She's the realist of the group. I'll be the dreamer. She'll be the realist. I'm like, that was a good show. It's Doug. No, I'm just kidding.
I've said that before.
Yeah, secretly to herself, and then she blogs about it online under a pseudonym.
We've got a couple of yay 50s.
Yes,
Woohoo.
it is a milestone. You know, hopefully we have more milestones to come in the future, and I think we will.
We're coming up. We're coming up on a year.
Yes.
So,
And we were kind of wrestling with the idea of celebrating 50, which is a good thing to celebrate.
right. Yeah, for sure. Or celebrating a year. And we're so close.
Yeah.
Let's go with a year.
It seems like kind of redundant to do both, or
Exactly.
that one might take away from the other.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm going to go to the dollar store, I'm going to go all out.
Yeah. Because you got to get those. They don't even have number balloons, do they?
Well,
I don't think so.
they don't have gender balloons anymore.
Yeah.
So ageism's still okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless you're a baby. You can't tell the sex of them anymore.
That's true.
Mm-mm.
Sometimes they're both sexes, Roma. And then what do? Snip it off? Sew it shut? Got to do one or the
What
other.
would be both sexes? Would that be purple?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about color palettes.
Have
You
we?
know it's my favorite topic.
We have. You're like, that's a thing.
Yeah. Those are opposite colors.
Don't even get Sarah started.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
I love how betrayed you were that she said Chris was right at the end of that, because you're like reading it. Do you remember that? You're reading it,
Yes,
and then you're like, see? And then she's like, Chris is right. You're like, what? Traitor.
Oh, Hector Osorio says, hey, what's up, guys from Venezuela?
Oh, snap.
We're famous.
Venezuela, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
How are things in Venezuela?
I
That
don't
place
know.
is a bit unstable at times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I wonder how the COVID is over there.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably stopped rioting, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because there was a bunch of civil unrest stuff that was going on in Venezuela. I mean, you look at me and you go, this is an international man, that knows everything about probably lots of things. It's not true.
Okay. I was gonna say like James Bond or
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
The most amazing man in the world. What was that guy?
Yeah, he
The,
definitely
Dos
wore
Equis?
glasses because his eyesight was compromised.
Yes. Well, yeah. Likes to do a lot of visual gags with him. But you have to start a fire somehow, right? You can't just
True.
rub sticks together.
True. I don't know.
Depending on sunshine and whatnot.
Yeah,
Atmospheric
Venezuela
conditions.
is probably pretty sunny when it's not rainy.
Well, under the forest canopy, there's a lot of problems in the world, Roma. Like, one of the things, it's raining in the forest. There's rain, so you got to stop that.
In the rainforest specifically, yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that.
Yeah. So
So I have a
happy 50th episode.
Happy 50th
Yes.
episode,
Roma,
yeah.
thanks for being here. Thanks for being the better half of the show, the reasonable half, the
Well,
one with
I try.
that brings the topic, and I just make an ass out of myself most of the rest of the time. So I think
Steve S.
together it
says he looks
balances.
forward to 50 more shows.
Yes, me too. And actually, with Hector being here, I did want to talk about our we have a global audience.
We're getting one.
Yeah, which is nice. There's so we also do the audio portion of the podcast,
Yes.
which
Yep.
is the more
all
traditional.
major platforms.
Yes,
Mhm.
10 different platforms, and there are. We have. Let's see. Oh, my Streamlabs dashboard is a real dick. Okay. Oh, it's incognito mode. That's why. All right. So, we are currently in 9 countries as far as our audio podcast. So, I wanted to give a shout out to France,
La France.
which is our next biggest platform, other than
Okay.
the United States.
It
Of
makes
course.
sense. We're classy ass bitches.
Exactly. We love cheeses, breads,
I do love both.
French
ever
dip
had-
sandwiches.
Yeah, you ever had the elongated what is it, like a French roll, and it's got brie on it and butter and ham?
I think I have, or it might have been turkey, but yes, it's very
It's
good.
dank.
Yeah,
It is dank.
It's interesting how a butter sandwich can be so good.
It's amazing.
Ireland is our next biggest
Interesting.
market. Canada, Sweden, Australia, Germany,
Good eye, mate.
Denmark, and the UK.
Nice.
Yeah, so
We're fucking blowing up.
we're giving shout outs to all of those countries. Thanks for listening. You guys rock.
Absolutely.
Yes. Good tidings to you during this COVID time, and we hope you keep carrying on with us after everything's kind of
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Tell your friends. Tell your
Yes.
friends.
Exactly, in
This would be
whatever
a
language.
Worldwide phenomenon.
They like my soothing voice. You know, it's a real bastion of sanity in this time of unsettled.
That's what I always think too.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. It's true. my nasally smoky voice. Also we do have a 4% non-binary audience.
Do we?
Yes. So
I'm
actually,
surprised-
sorry about those jokes I said earlier about babies with both sets of genitals.
I'm surprised they actually do that ranking.
Yeah. Hmm.
Good.
None of our audience is undecided. That's the important thing.
Okay.
Is that they're all
They
very
wanna
much
be
decided.
firm in their stance on
Yes.
whatever.
Even
Race, gender, countrymen.
lend me your ears.
I was gonna say that, but I didn't go there.
Yes.
That would be a little corny, but
Well, that's my job, Roma.
yeah,
That's what I do around here.
right. By the
Um,
way, I'm dyslexic, so when I type things and the letters are different, it's because I'm not using my phone that
mhm.
actually spells things correctly for me.
And yeah, that's your guys' job to throw up
It's
in
really
there.
bad. So I just try to like throw one in there for everybody. So Hector says that things are pretty bad down here in Venezuela. It's one of the poorest countries in South America right now, if not the poorest. Unless a cure is found, the COVID could cause major damage
Wow.
because medicine resources are very limited.
Oh, geez, yeah.
And honestly, I'm not shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the stories that we've been hearing, you know.
Well, and it's so interesting because Venezuela, up to a point, was the second largest buyer of Ford F-150s in the world.
Yeah, they were doing really good until socialism / communism kind of hit.
Yeah. Well, I'm a fan of yours, Hector. So please, please. Yeah, that's rough. Take
It's-
care of
yeah.
yourself and everyone else.
Absolutely.
We'd love to definitely hear. Maybe we can set up a Zoom with Hector and see what the situation is.
Totally.
Have him be our man in the streets, our
There you go.
amigo in the streets.
There you go.
That'd be awesome.
Steve Halverson said that that makes me a bad speller or lazy non-dyslexic.
And
honestly,
he just goes with it.
Yeah, I'm probably a lazy non-dyslexic, but
That's it. Yeah,
my fingers are dyslexic.
it's true.
It does things backwards, and I hit enter before I read it.
Yes.
That's my big problem there.
Steve S says prayer for the Venezuelans. I agree. Yep, they are. I hope they get through it You know, I think
Yeah.
every country's got its
Limitations.
limitations, and yes, but the Venezuelans have been put in a particularly bad position because before COVID,
I mean, they were doing really poorly to begin
yeah,
with. Yeah,
yeah,
it's rough. It's rough for, especially, they're saying that the people that are in the more poverty stricken areas are harder to hit because of, well, one of it's because of nutrition. They don't
yeah,
have proper nutrition, so they tend to have underlying conditions, like diabetes, heart disease, especially in the States because we tend to be an obese
sure.
country, and specifically the poor because they don't have access to, fresh foods and cooks and all those things. And so,
All the terrible foods keep very well. They're
absolutely.
generally easy to transport, lightweight. So things like vegetables and fruits and the things that are good for you tend not to, not to be able to, yeah, travel well or keep a long time.
I mean, you would think that down in that area it'd be warm and humid, and so there would be a lot of fruits and vegetables. But I mean,
Mm,
if you're having a run on you, so for instance, like here in the States, toilet paper is a thing, which is crazy.
mm,
Like it's not like it's a digestive issue disease, and so, but here we are having toilet paper runs, and you're like, wow, I literally can't get toilet paper. Like, what do I do? Like, if I run out, what do I do?
mm-hmm.
And so I can't imagine having that with food,
Yes.
with, I don't even know what else you would need. Gasoline. I mean, I don't know what the shortages are, but it's scary.
In a lot of the communist countries that, so like take North Korea for example, some of the areas of North Korea have more food and some of the areas have more, cotton or some other resource that is sort of vital to living and to life. They don't have gasoline. So trains or diesel, gasoline, any of the the fuels, so trains trying to get back and forth to bring food to this area and goods to that area can't do it. So you end up with people starving in one place or dying of exposure in another place or
Fun
the
things.
things that
Yikes.
so I think that's one of the worst parts about having, society kind of crumble is all that organization and
Mm-hmm.
that's one reason we support our truckers so much, the
Mm-hmm.
truckers and along with the first responders, because without those truckers, you don't get the things that those first responders need and everybody needs
Yep.
just in general.
Well, and then further back than that, your farmers. I was
Hmm.
talking to a friend of mine today that was talking about how much dairy is being wasted right now because people aren't, restaurants, coffee shops, whatever, aren't open. They're not buying the dairy, and so they're having to dump all this milk because you can't just like not milk your cows,
Yeah.
And so, but the farmers aren't stopping. They're not stopping picking and doing all those things that they do, and so. But the need has gone down because people are isolating and they're they don't not making as much money and whatever. And so yeah, interesting. It's interesting that whole like trickle down economics, but
Yeah.
from a totally different perspective.
It's amazing because it is a way for us to all understand, because I wonder if back in the Dust Bowl days and
Oh
the
geez,
you were talking about that
yes.
before, but in
What a
the Great
travesty.
Depression, people probably understood things a little more intimately when it
Absolutely,
starts making
because you didn't have
such
TikTok.
well.
But seriously, though, I
Yeah.
mean, like, you knew the farmers, you knew the guy that delivered the milk, you knew the people that made the bread, like, you knew all that because it
Hmm.
was all in your town. And then once something gets hit, and then it's that whole like, well, I can't buy milk because I don't have money because I couldn't grow the wheat, and so now you can't sell your milk, and now you can't afford to feed your cows, and it just becomes this whole
Hmm.
exponential thing that we don't see as a modern society.
And that's why energy is such an interesting concern, because you always think like, oh, energy, energy, energy. Well, energy moves things. Energy, it not only produces things, but it also moves those things. And if we don't, this whole idea of energy is Kind of like when they talk about, fusion and fission reactions, cold fusion and cold fission reactions, that you can have basically nuclear reactions that give you this immense amount of power, and how that will revolutionize the whole world.
Right.
And you think about it and you go, well, what? I mean, like what? That we won't have an electric bill that's so high?
So think about it though. Question. So gasoline has gone down exponentially.
Mhm.
We're under $2 a gallon right now.
Mhm.
Why is that? What has changed that it has gone down so much? I mean, I just don't know the logistics of it, but it's
Mhm.
interesting that, because I'm like, sweet, gas is low because I don't have money anyways because I'm not working. But at the same time, it's like, what has caused the gas to go down so low? And then what are the repercussions of that?
There was some sort of an issue with OPEC and Saudi Arabia, and it was either China or Russia and us, and it was some sort of an agreement. And I would imagine
So was that purposeful, or is this a consequence? You got to think
I
people
think
aren't
it's
buying
both.
gas.
Yeah, I think it's both. So I think part of it is the demand has significantly gone down at this time. So
Because I just filled up the other day and I
Mhm.
wasn't paying attention. And then, so I filled up, went to the gas station, bought something, came back out, and my gas bill, and I've got a really economical vehicle, and it was like $24, and
Mhm.
usually it's like 40
Yeah.
ish. And it didn't even occur to me at the time, but then I was like, oh my gosh, like that was practically half of what I usually, pay for. And I was very excited about it because I didn't want to spend that extra money. But at the same time, like, why?
Mhm.
I mean, it makes sense that the demand has gone down,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, and it's hard to say with any of the commodities things, because that's, it's so up to OPEC's production and the kind of the distribution, and if we are saying, hey, screw you to you guys. And I think that had something to do with it, is that we were more talking about, oh well, we'll just use our own, we'll just worry about ourselves, uh and then so they go, oh, no, 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 we'll supply you just less, just less money.
Steve S.
And
said that they agreed to cut back production.
okay. um yeah, and so, and that's it. That's all economics is. And if you think about economics is of everything in your life. So what's the economics of us doing this show, spending the time, spending the money, spending all this stuff to do the show? What is it worth to us? Is it worth something down the line? Is it worth something right? These are
Mhm.
like, you can look at everything in your life with economics. What's
Sure.
the economics of exercise? What's the economics of smoking cigarettes?
Yeah.
Putting time into Tinder. What's that worth? Really everything in life. And I've heard economics professors and stuff are real a-holes because they think that they know like
I was going to
everything
say, half
about
of
the
them
world.
probably have no idea what the fuck they're talking about.
Well, maybe.
Some of them.
But they think that they understand everything in the world, kind of like mathematicians say that with using math you can figure out anything in the world. Why beans cause you to break wind. It's a mathematical equation, Roma.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Question of the day.
Ah, yes.
Okay. So,
Pregunta de las días. De la dia. Yeah.
okay, good.
Question of the day.
Okay.
That was for Hector.
Hi, Hector. Okay, so I'm walking at night, as I often do.
Skulking.
Skulking, for sure. Usually it's raining. It's very depressing. And I walk by a vehicle with the dome light on.
Okay.
It's around 11 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
You're walking by this vehicle and you think their car's probably going to be dead in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Do you go up to the door, knock on the door, and ask and tell them their dome light's on? Or do you think, no, I don't want to interrupt them, it's late at night, and like, what do you do? It's a moral conundrum.
Yes.
I've had this conversation in my head so many times because I see it fairly frequently, not all the time, but I see it often, often enough that it makes me think, what do I do? Because as a person, do I want somebody to come up to me and tell me like, hey, your dome light's on? Or do I want to just wake up in the morning and have my car dead?
Yeah. It's kind of it's sort of that heroics. Like, does it pay to be a hero?
Right.
What sort of neighborhood is this, would you say?
Like a middle upper class.
Okay, upper middle class.
Yeah.
And what kind of car is it? What
Nothing particularly fancy. I
Yeah.
mean, just like
Okay.
probably a nicer
Middle-class
car.
family.
Yeah,
Okay.
middle class car. Maybe it's a Toyota or something like that. Not like it's not a Porsche or
Yeah.
But it's not a junker either.
Now, the other question is the handle unlocked? Is the door unlocked?
I never tried.
And does it look like it has an alarm system? Because it may. It's likely that it probably does.
I think your average car does not.
Well, I don't know. Nowadays, it's got something.
Right.
So here's what I would think.
Okay.
You pull the handle to check if it's open or not. If it starts beeping, that brings them to the car anyways. Or at least gets their attention to the car.
What about if their ring catches you on video?
That's true. All right. I did.
I've always been a night walker, so I always walk late at night because, the world's just quiet and there's not traffic and there's just, you can it's nice. It's silent.
It's dark outside, it's light inside. They can't see you. You can see them.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's a house that I'll tell you in a second, and so, I walk at night. Well, it's gotten to the point where and the neighbors I walk in are kind of nicer because I like to look at architecture. So I try to kind of walk in nicer neighborhoods. It's true.
Uh-huh.
And so.
Oh, all that night architecture. Yeah, Rolla.
But if it's really nice architecture, they tend to have landscaping lighting.
Okay.
So the houses tend to be lit up.
Mm-hmm.
But so anyways, so I will walk through and I noticed that nowadays it's about every third-ish house has the ring system. And you can tell because it has that lit up ring, which is great deterrent.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, you could probably buy a rip-off that didn't even have a camera in it that just had the lit up ring and people would not fuck with you.
Yeah.
But so there is this, you're under surveillance now that you did not used to be under surveillance.
Sure.
And so I don't feel comfortable going and opening up someone's door to turn off their light because God forbid you get caught.
Mm-hmm.
You look super guilty and you're like, no, I was just trying to turn off your light,
Yeah. Now, the other side of that is if you do get caught, can you explain your way out of it? So are you white in this scenario, Roma? Because Hector couldn't get away with it.
Probably not.
Yeah, Hector, don't
do this.
Yeah. But white privilege allows me to turn off someone's headlights. And that's always like, oh, just kidding. I've got their stuff in my just going through their gym bag.
We look like people are interested in this. Steve S says that waking up in the morning with your battery dead, that teaches them a lesson, hopefully.
That's true. Yep.
Sarah says she wants to know. Steph Broccoli says, when all the serial murderers come out to play. At night? At night. That's what that was. That was.
Sometimes during the day, but mostly at night. She meant look at architecture. Yeah. Sorry. All the
Let's see. She says we have rung and light sensors to keep the night walkers away. Ring. Okay. Ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, this was one thing I've thought about, but it's mostly with headlights with me because the interior light doesn't always mean.
No, it doesn't. I think especially with newer cars.
Yeah. When things are LED and all that.
Yeah.
But there is the headlights in the parking lot.
So then, okay, so say the headlights on and you're like, oh, their lights on, but maybe they're taking something back and forth from the house or whatever. Like they know it's on, right? So I go on long walks. So, I'll walk maybe for an hour if I'm listening to good podcast, 2 hours, like
so
Sensible Sociopath podcast. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which I've actually done.
Yeah, totally. Quality control.
Absolutely. And so you're on your way back. So, you've been walking for 45 minutes. You're on your way back and it's still on.
Okay.
And it's just like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Gosh.
I mean, you could start a fire. I mean, does that work? Does that answer your question, Roma? Just start
I
a
mean, I
fire.
could.
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll fix the situation.
I mean, yeah.
Like on the front lawn?
I don't know. Across. No. I'm just saying anything that might get their attention.
Right.
So,
Or I could just ring their Ring doorbell.
that's true.
That usually gets people's attention.
Mm-hmm. Just put a mustache on and
But okay, put yourself in my situation.
Mhm.
If you walked by a car, the headlights or the interior light or headlights were on, you walk by it again on your way back. It's
Mhm.
significantly later, maybe half an hour, like that. What do? You just keep walking?
I would have to, I would significantly, or I would consider the situation, the type of car. If it looked like a younger person's car, like, or if there was a baby seat in it or something like that, I would probably be more apt to ring the doorbell or try to contact the person, because they're probably going to have to take their kid to somewhere in the morning and probably don't know how to fix things. So yeah, it's a tough call. If it's an older person's car, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard.
If it looks like a dude car, I'm like, sorry, dude.
I've never knocked on somebody's door, but there have been plenty of times where I'm like, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't ever really, I mean, but I can walk away though too. So it's more me just going, am I overstepping this? Like, am I just being like codependent? Where
I'm gonna save the day.
Exactly. It's like maybe they want their battery dead. I don't know.
That way they don't have to go to their, fuck buddies the next night.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, my car was dead. Sorry, dude.
Exactly. Or get away from an angry ex lover.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Steph says hold up a note.
Yeah. Your car's dead. You just put that on a post-it.
I just keep Post-its with me or scotch tape or something.
Yeah. Your battery needs a jump.
Yeah.
Just do that. And that way they don't have to get in and find out.
So there's this one drive-through that I've gone through a couple of days this last week, just because I'm so bored. Like, I want to get out of the house, and so I'm like, okay, I'll go get food, because what else are you gonna do? Like, literally nothing. It's a local Mexican drive-through, and so I've gone there, and they have on their sliding door window, people put these stickers all over it. And I'm like, oh, I want to put a sensible sociopath sticker on it so bad. But like, should I do it? Like, I feel like I'm going to get caught. Like, I'm like so nervous about it. Like, God forbid I do the wrong thing. Like, what if I'm putting it on and she opens the door as I'm putting it on? I'm like, nothing.
Hola. Yeah. I think she'd probably forgive you if there's stickers all over
It
the
looks
place.
like some of them were torn off, so they were trying to get them off. But there were a lot of them that were still on there.
Hard to say, Roma.
It's a hard one. I have so many conundrums in my everyday life.
It's true. Roma's just sitting there pondering all the time.
I ponder too much.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
I
say put the sticker there.
I know, because so we have these little stickers, and so like you have to what I would do is pull up, wait while they're getting stuff,
and start a fire.
Okay, I think you're not following the story.
I'm following along.
You peel it off halfway,
Uh-huh.
and then you stick it on, and then rip the back off real quick and smash it,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I go during the day. I think it used to be a 24-hour, but now it's only open part-time, like during the day because of the coronavirus.
Okay.
And so I feel like maybe if it was like midnight.
Yeah. I mean, do you think if it was the Dos Equis virus or the Takati virus that it would be different?
It's the coronavirus. You can put lime in it.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, that their hours might be different, because I'm not a big day guy.
I wonder if they sell Corona there.
No, probably not anymore, Roma.
Probably definitely Dos Equis, though. Every time you go to a Mexican restaurant, it's always Dos Equis.
Or Tecate. Tecate.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
That's like a Mayan beer or something. Though.
Something like that.
Mayan or Aztec.
Those Mayans and their beers.
Yeah, it's true. Roma, have you ever seen Netflix?
Steve says that he agrees. Steve H says that he agrees with you.
Starting a fire?
No, unless there's an easy opportunity to tell them.
Oh, yeah.
So
or you just bring a pellet gun along, and you know. The other thing is animals. You know, there might be somebody. They might have a dog. You might go to walk into the yard, and suddenly you're attacked by an animal. Just saying.
Steph says she'd be worried about the adhesive. Better to get a stencil in a can of spray paint to mark your territory. Yeah.
Yeah.
She spelled canna.
Stephanie's
but
actually
can-
Banksy.
Yeah.
Oh, we have Banksy for a. That's nice.
Good old fashioned Banksy.
Yep. So, Roma, I was watching a show last night.
Okay.
Now, I mean, did we resolve your problem with not being able to start a fire to let someone know that their
No,
dome light
but
was on?
continue.
That was a good question, though.
I'm
It brought
still
up a lot
gonna
of-
I'm still gonna question it every time I walk by, but
You're gonna have these struggles in life, Roma. You know, Hitler had the same struggle. He wrote a book about it called Mein Kampf.
oh, okay.
It means my conflict. It was mostly about dome lamps.
Hmm.
Mostly.
I heard that.
Yeah.
Dan says nice new glasses.
Oh, thank you. Yes. I think.
What were you going for there?
Pornography.
Yeah.
Pornographer.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Are you hard?
You know. No, it is they're kind of Tony Starkish too, a little Iron Man-y.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think. I mean, I'm cool like him, so you probably just didn't even know
Yeah,
that it wasn't
Half
original.
bionic with all this machinery in here.
Got that glowing shit in my chest.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly Corona.
Mm-hmm.
Got the UV rays out. But I watched the movie Outbreak
Okay.
because it was trending, you know, for whatever reason.
Gee, I couldn't wonder why.
Yeah. It's a really good movie and really terrible at the same time. It's that mid-90s kind of where everything is predictable, but like they just started with the CGI.
Okay.
So the explosions and they did like the 3D droplets being coughed
Mm-hmm.
and things.
Okay.
But then it gets all cheesy when like there's an emergency and everybody's getting sick. So people are just being over the top extras.
Okay.
You just know that's
I would be that guy.
yeah. What's going on? Yeah, it's like yeah, we get it.
I
You have a
played
hemorrhagic fever.
zombie number 23.
Yes, and yeah, that's your breakout.
Right.
You're still holding on to it now. It's 1995, and
Yep.
you're still
Yep.
having anniversaries showing people the movie, but just that part. You don't even show them the whole movie.
Yep.
It's like Jesus. But it was really good. Morgan Freeman was in it. Donald Sutherland.
I remember it being a thing, but
yeah.
I never watched it.
And
Honestly, I don't like apocalyptic / zombie type movies.
yeah,
They're just stressful.
it's especially now. You start looking around and going, oh yeah, maybe this.
It's
is
just not fun for me.
plausible."
Like there's no winning. Like
Mhm.
it's just I just don't enjoy it. I don't like knowing that the entire civilization has died and life as we know has changed, and you know you're trying to save your beloveds, and like it's just not fun.
Yeah. And I think some people get that as you know, as they grow up and stuff, they go, oh, I'm losing, especially people with kids. They go, oh, I can't watch horror movies anymore
Yeah,
because they totally identify. And
I
the
can see
second
that.
they watch it, they're thinking like, oh my God, what if that was my kid? It's like,
Absolutely.
it's not about you. Just
Right.
relax.
but what if?
I guess. Yeah. What if a hockey masked murderer with a machete came through? Yeah, I guess so.
I
Can't
guess
you-
that would suck.
Can't you just be cool and watch a movie with us?
Right.
But it's interesting because it's when also things had to have a love story in it. And I guess that's kind of the way it is nowadays. But there has to be that underlying love story plus, you know, the action and the suspense. And they just kind of try to do everything with
Sure.
the movie. And Kevin Spacey was in it.
Oh boy.
And he played a sort of a fruity.
Surprise, surprise.
Well, but that's the thing is I'm like, I bet you this is what he's really like.
In real life.
Yeah, because this was in 1995. He was probably 30-something, 30-ish, 35. So which he was also in Seven in 1995. So in Seven, he plays this serial killer, but he also plays it's Outbreak. Oh yeah, and so he ended up. It was just interesting seeing him play kind of a pseudo effeminate army doctor or whatever.
So I had brought up American Pie, which he
Uh-huh.
was in 99. That's what it says, 1999.
Was
And
he?
yeah. So he was the main character. And I really enjoyed that movie at the
Roma.
time.
That was American Beauty.
Oh, you're right. American Beauty. Okay.
American
Um,
Pie is where they fucked a pie.
Don't make
Yeah.
don't watch any type of this.
Yeah.
And that was 99.
Okay.
And so anyways, I really enjoyed that movie at the time, but in it he's basically a pedophile. He has sex with a teenager. He's in his 40s maybe.
Yeah, midlife crisis. Well, she was like 17 or
Yeah,
something.
but
Yeah. That's not a pedophile, bro.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're having sex with children that are underage. But
It's not. That's not the same. That's what is it? Sex with a minor. Pedophilia is a whole different. That's like 12 or 13 or.
I mean, I get it. I see what you're saying, but
Yeah.
the whole point that I'm making is that he seems to play these characters that he's really close to in real life.
Maybe.
Innocent, underage, gay. Like what is It's just he's devious. He's sexually deviant, and it's just but he plays those parts so well.
Well, but also like Milo Yiannopoulos.
Yeah.
He was saying that this was a normal sort of thing that for older gay men to
Doesn't make it right.
bring young. Well, I mean, if that's their cult, there's plenty of cultures out there that do some fucked up shit. You know what I'm saying?
Doesn't
So if
make
you
it
look
right.
at it as a subculture of American culture, I mean, I have no horse in this game. I don't care, but
I'm just saying he plays these innocent, young, gay
yeah.
parts really well.
Yeah. I think that he was good in that because and I think any actor is good because they have a part of themselves in whatever character they are, whether that's neuroticism or with the banging of the cheerleader, the 17-year-old or whatever. It's perhaps the midlife crisis part because he's straight or if he is gay, then why would he be good at playing that? Well, it could have been the midlife crisis part. And maybe that's why he's going after these young guys is because he feels that it's slipping away from him or what, like I think anybody does.
I mean, there's definitely a big aspect of acting into it, but I find it funny that he finds these roles.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with being gay, but there is something wrong with having sex with underage people. At a certain, if you're 24 and having sex with a 17-year-old, that's one thing. But if you're in your 40s and having that's
sure.
a disparity of, that's a power grab kind of thing. That's not.
Well, and I think it's probably got to do with midlife crises and stuff like that these guys that's what they were about anyways. Why wasn't it just an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old? Who knows, but, and especially when you have a bunch of money and you're a famous person, because you could get that. So, you're probably right with all the power stuff. But it just, I don't know, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like, just like, I think the kid was 17 or whatever. Why not just an 18-year-old? What's the difference?
Somebody, it's legal.
You don't think there's another young gay man out there that's fine with?
Steph says perving went back when it was cool.
Yeah. Totally. Nothing wrong with that.
Some good old-fashioned perving.
Exactly.
The great thing about high school girls is I keep getting older and they stay the same age.
Exactly. So what was Matthew
was
McConaughey?
it was was it Dazed and Confused?
All right. Yeah. So it was a good movie. I do recommend people watching it. It's funny because Dustin Hoffman's like, oh, this goddamn thing. Kevin Spacey's like typing on this crazy looking laptop he's like, yeah, and have that faxed right to his desk. You know, you're like, oh, wait, people had faxes back then. There wasn't even emails. So wait, when he was typing, he wasn't typing an email. He was
Right.
typing a fax,
Right.
an electronic facsimile.
How's that a thing? And they were so grainy. Do you remember that?
The dot matrix printing, or it was that
No.
really thin, waxy
Yes.
sheet.
Yep.
Yes.
Like what they do for receipts nowadays, but only it was a fax.
And like America's Most Wanted picture comes through. And it's just all zzz, 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 zzz. You're just waiting and waiting.
Steve H
Oh,
says
it's
that.
me.
Steve H says that I saw a study recently that said that 1%, the number one cause of pedophilia was sexy children.
I totally agree. Goddamn sexy kids. Strutting around with their lollipops. Sorry.
Lolita,
Yeah. Whatever.
case in point.
Yeah, that was a movie, wasn't it?
Mhm, it was a
Yeah.
classic, yeah.
And I've never seen it, but it's
I haven't
something.
seen it in fucking forever, 25 years.
Yeah, and wasn't it just about this like young slut
Mm-hmm.
that was just fucking everybody?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know why you'd want to watch. I guess if you didn't have pornography back then, that's probably why you'd watch that sort of thing.
If you're into that kind of thing.
I mean, Tracy Lords, I think, was doing something back then, so go get her movies if you're into that sort of thing. If you're into that 16 to 18-year-old range, she's got some great films you need to see.
Speaking of which, I have a Taxi Driver queued up, so
Do you?
yep.
It's a good one, yes.
Yeah.
It's definitely long, but it's good, especially at
it.
the end
Yeah.
with the Harvey Keitel. It's some good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also have some stuff about some Charlie Manson things, Roma.
Ooh. Haven't gotten into that.
Yeah, it's not really been a thing we've talked about. We have talked about some of the CIA things.
I have some paranormal perspectives on it, but I don't know a lot about the case.
Okay. So what kind of fired it all off is I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast, a recent one, and he interviewed a guy called Tom O'Neill. And this guy had spent 20 years writing a book about Charles Manson and the CIA and just all the kind of weird occurrences, kind of an overall picture of like the 60s, where it was the late 60s into, I guess, the early 70s and the Tate murder, Tate LaBianca murders.
Okay. Yeah. It was Sharon Tate and
Abigail Folger and
there's a guy though.
yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Continue.
And so it was just interesting because they were getting into kind of the conspiracy theories of the, JFK and sort of things. So what happened was back in the 60s, there was MK Ultra. And there was also another project by the CIA called Operation Midnight Climax. And have you heard? I'm sure you've probably heard of that one, Roma.
Actually, I haven't.
Okay, so Midnight Climax was where they would take normal people or I don't know if they were normal people only, but they would have prostitutes lure people into hotel rooms
Okay.
and then they would slip them LSD in either drinks or they would aerosolize it. They were just testing to see how they
You
could
can
get people.
aerosolize LSD?
Apparently.
Where have I been?
Yeah. Getting sprayed in their face.
It was Jay Sebring that I was thinking of, by the way.
J. Sebring.
Yeah.
The
continue.
Sebring convertible.
Mhm.
Yeah, classic.
That's good. That's a
Plymouth.
good one.
Chrysler Plymouth. A man's car. So basically the premise being that these people would not report anything because they were with prostitutes. So these prostitutes would bring them in,
Oh.
hit the bathroom or get something in their drink somehow, and then suddenly they would observe what these,
Interesting.
how these people reacted. So, they go pretty deep into it. There's also some cases of down in like Haight-Ashbury areas, universities would set up safe houses with that looked kind of like hippie dens, and they would put grad students in there, and the grad students would lure people in take LSD with, give them LSD, take LSD with them, all that, while they were being observed, and observing other people. So that was like their
I would take
thesis.
LSD under observation.
Yeah. Well, and what a lot of it was they were trying to do it without people's knowledge.
Right.
So of course they're like, well, we want to figure out how to make, because like the Manchurian Candidate, that movie with Sinatra, and then they also had the one
Classic.
with Denzel Washington, the
Mhm.
remake. That was a lot of what they were trying to do. So to get people to kill or to be able to control them without their knowledge of them being that way.
Right.
And some of the professors and the psychiatrists, they would often get psychiatrists to do it because they were able to be around people who were acting crazy. And so if you gave someone LSD, it's not that odd that they would act crazy.
Interesting. Okay.
So they could run these experiments and do these different things. And then one of the big parts was with Jack Ruby, who shot Lee Harvey Oswald.
Okay.
They made him crazy, suspectedly, that they made him a crazy person.
Interesting.
And therefore any of his testimony was thrown out, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. So just a whole cool story. But part of that reminded me of it is one of the reasons, if you think about like all these conspiracy theories, you have, the Tate LaBianca murders. And part of it was that Charles Manson, so you say, why would they get involved with Charles Manson? Well, Charles Manson was trying to create a race war, basically, was what Charles Manson figured out, is this Helter Skelter. So that was his...
I didn't know that's what that was.
Yeah, so Helter Skelter was this kind of a manifesto and like a belief that he had.
But they killed white people, though.
Exactly. And they wrote pigs on the...
So
over
they were
the mantle
anti-white
of
people?
blood. They were trying to frame black people for the murder of white people, hoping that would kick off the race war.
Interesting.
And, whether that idea came from the CIA or came from, Charles Manson, who knows? But they certainly, that was part of the plan. And so he had this overreaching theory about, called Helter Skelter. That was, this whole thing's going to kick off. So they were saying that the conservatives, because the liberals were all the hippies and all this, free love and the Black Power movement. So Black Panthers, there was something called the White Panthers, and I guess they were like rich white people, or it was like a movement or something. I don't know if they were actually a group, but Jane Fonda, Warren Beatty, and Donald Sutherland were sort of a part of that movement because they were young Hollywood and they were trying to, support liberal movements. So Donald Sutherland at one point was under FBI, CIA surveillance because he was part of and then he made the movie Outbreak.
Was he in it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
In 1995.
I didn't know any of that.
Mm-hmm. He was the shitty old like the general that was right above Morgan Freeman. So Morgan Freeman's kind of still got a heart, and Donald Sutherland just wanted to vaporize the town to get rid of the hemorrhagic fever.
Yeah.
And he's like just pushing forward and pushing. He's like, kill those fucking Americans, They're like, we have the cure. Yeah. So
Like the COVIDs.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know any of that, honestly.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it. That's all just an overview of some of the situations. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fucked up shit that happened, and a lot of it that is not or that was released. That was taken out of confidentiality at some point.
He died in prison, didn't he?
Yeah.
Charles Manson. Mm-hmm. Of old age?
Yeah.
Ish. I mean, natural
can't remember.
causes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He was like
He wasn't murdered or
70-something,
anything, or
yeah.
like executed, or
he did a longer interview, I think, in the early 2000s or so, but
Okay.
we really didn't see a lot of him kind of after that. And yeah, and actually, if you remember, he had the swastika on his forehead. Well, that was an X before, and then they turned it into a swastika. I don't know.
Who's they?
The him and the family.
Got it. Okay.
Tex whatever his name was, and all the crazy women.
Interesting.
I don't know. Oh, and it's funny because down in like Haight-Ashbury, where there was these clinics, and the clinics were, I guess, it's all held together that some of the doctors were some of the doctors that worked for the universities, and so they think it had something to do with CIA and LSD, experiments, and
In Haight-Ashbury makes sense.
it would be the place. I
I'm
would
pretty
think.
sure it's still happening right now. Lots of
Yes.
experiments.
Oh, and Helter Skelter was brought on by the Beatles' White Album.
So I was going to say the Beatles had an album that had Helter Skelter on it.
That was the Beatles' White Album. So it's probably a song or something, or
It
maybe
is,
just
yeah.
said it in there. But he heard lyrics from there. That was the I guess like some kind of a subliminal messaging or something like that. I don't know if it was subliminal or liminal, but
Hector asks, what was the public's opinion of Charles Manson during that time period? Did the people side with him or hate him?
I think he terrified everybody. So what happened is that they were trying to put they were trying to squash this liberal movement, which included the hippies, the Black Panthers. They killed Malcolm X. They killed John Lennon. They not. I think they killed Lennon afterwards, but basically anybody with any revolutionary ideas, they kind of kept them down.
Right.
At that time, it was the most terrifying thing because I think not a lot of people were hippies. So, you had Woodstock and you had kind of the love fest down in Southern California. But for the middle of the country, it was a huge thing to have these giant murders of famous people too.
Right.
Just out of nowhere. And I think it really terrified people because it gave hippies such a bad name. And really that's what they said was that murder was the end of the 60s, was the end of I think it was in 68.
Okay.
But it was the end of that free love, sort of hippie area. So yes, he was not popular. But there was also that he didn't physically murder anybody, supposedly. He had
Right.
murdered somebody before.
Oh, he
all
did.
of this. Yeah, and he went to prison for it, I believe, and then ended up getting out.
Interesting.
And they were also saying that his parole officer or his probation parole officer was filling out this weird paperwork that was not correct. Like somehow he went to Mexico to work for some company that disappeared a little bit later. It was based out of Las Vegas.
His
And-
parole officer.
Yeah, and so they're like, why would you send, Charles Manson, this, fucked up guy, to go work in Mexico? It just doesn't make sense that
Interesting.
that's the sequence of events. He kept getting in trouble but not getting put back in jail. He had some people, doing some things for him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Steph says the cult did take tons of acid as well known. He wanted to scare the guy that ran at the house before Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski for rejecting his music for an album.
Yeah, and he was a failed musician. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
He was, I guess, just a shitty, folksy musician. Good enough that he could get people in a drum circle to take acid with him and
Right.
proselytize
That's
to
really
them.
not that hard, though.
That's probably true.
And then Margot said that we thought Manson was crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think it was basically the OJ trial of back then, just with how crazy everything is. Let's see. So yeah, I was also talking about I also was looking at the timelines with China and everything. So on December, let's see. Okay, so yeah, so I was looking into the news, and in China there was some hotline set up that if you're seen getting over up and over the borders, they will stop you. So you can call this hotline and get people to I guess get people in trouble. What happened was there were people trying to get from China, or they were trying to get from Russia to China, and they got, I guess, stopped at both. They got stopped at both checkpoints, and so I think for 13 days people were just in the middle between Russia and China, which is obviously an uncomfortable place to be for 13 days. And it just kind of highlights the fact that not a lot of people are, I think, getting all the news about everything. So there's people that are talking about how the news has been held back from China, or China giving us the news. And so in apparently December 27th, China had the genome mapped out for the virus, which means that they had exactly what it is and probably how bad it's going to be, and how the things that you need to treat the virus.
Right.
So they didn't release any of that for over 2 weeks. So January 11th, they released that, and they started having issues back in November. It was either like October or November or something like that. And then they didn't. So if you've got it all genomed out and everything, you know what the deal is with it. January 20th, they started. They actually said, "Oh, human to human transmission is possible." So really, there's a couple things behind this. So if you're looking at the conspiratorial side of things, it's like, what were they doing between those two times?
I mean, covering up.
Potentially buying supplies.
Possibly.
Hoarding supplies, whatever you want to say, building up their stock before they do that. And there was also Facebook and Instagram that the Chinese Communist Party started, that they could get propaganda and disinformation out saying how Trump was racist and a bunch of other stuff. So I guess things had been seen like 45 million times.
Interesting.
These ads that were on Facebook and Instagram, and eventually Facebook caught on, and I guess started labeling the different groups as Communist Party
Conspiracies
or something. That
Communist
they were
parties
coming from China,
right?
And like to silence the whistleblowers, the people who disappeared and things, and
quote unquote died from it.
Yeah, there's a few of those. And then and of course questioning the origins of the virus, even though China admitted that, hey, it came from us.
Yeah, from Wuhan, the wet markets.
Yeah.
But then to find out that they were actually studying the virus in a lab that was in Wuhan or right outside of Wuhan. I think they said it was within like a mile or so of the wet markets. And so it just, it's just,
it's a coincidence.
It's just a coincidence.
Yeah. You pick up, is it your egg salad sandwich, or is it your sponge full of the virus that you take a bite out of? There was there was also some memos that were telling not to spread the news of the virus to people within China. So, yeah, which none of it's surprising to me, because communists are not the most forthright about what's going on. But it's interesting as to if it was accidentally released versus naturally occurring versus on purpose. what are the options? And one of the ones that I've heard about is, if it was released on purpose, is it to crash the economy, buy up a bunch of things, and then let it restore?
I feel like they wouldn't have seen the end game necessarily. I mean, I don't know. Do you really want something like that, like a virus rampaging through your own economy? 'Cause, I mean, it's fucked up their own economy as
Sure.
well. I mean, the entire world. Steve S. said that they shut down all of their domestic travel from Wuhan, but continued to allow international travel from Wuhan throughout the world, allowing it to spread.
Yeah. To stop their travel in between, regions, which is very interesting.
It is interesting, yeah.
It's just a nice little puzzle.
Yeah.
But I guess they're opening investigations into all of it, into like official investigations. So
Yeah.
it's not just going to be speculation. It will,
I mean, good.
yeah.
Somebody needs to check it out. We'll see what happens, but I'm not gonna hold my breath for justice or anything.
Yeah, and what would justice look like anyways?
Exactly.
It's probably a lot of the same, but we just learned to, I don't know. But then maybe,
I mean, I think as far as America goes, I think one of the good things that are going to come from this is that we're going to bring a lot of our jobs back to America, because that way we aren't dependent on, for instance, China, that A, hates us, and B, is, a
real jerk.
Yeah, communist country that gives zero fucks about people's lives and livelihood, and they don't care. It's just all about power grabs. And so
well, and I think that's a good point, is this could be one of the best things that happens for us, because it's not a war teaching us this. The casualty rate is what our our lack of preparation, or our, we adapt.
Right.
Obviously, a pandemic is something that hasn't happened since 1918. So
with the Spanish flu.
Yeah, and how do we? Oh, that was another thing at Outbreak. So you have Donald Sutherland sitting in one chair, and he's the head of this military medical thing, branch. He's the general of the medical, so he's got to be a doctor of some kind.
Okay.
Morgan Freeman, who's also a doctor, sitting there, and they just have to.
This is like Fauci and what?
Yeah, Burke, the woman doctor,
Okay.
sitting there across from each other, and they go, "Oh, well, the last time that happened was back in Spanish flu of 1918," and they lay out the Spanish flu
Interesting.
in a soliloquy about how many killed 250 million people. You're like, yeah, they both know. There's no reason that you have to lay it all. Like, Donald Sutherland should have just been like, I head up the fucking army in medical biological
I'm well aware,
warfare.
thank you.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to tell me about the one fucking flu that everybody on our first day of this job knows about.
Right.
So just,
well, you got to tell it for the audience.
Yes, but it was just funny to see. Yeah.
We're all experts by now, so.
This is true.
Back in the day, they didn't have the internet, and so there wasn't this spread of information like there is now.
Oh no, they could send you a fax.
True, and it's all grainy and
From an
like on that
airplane.
receipt paper.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's but it was, that just struck me as very funny. I'm like, oh, get to sit there and watch two doctors that are
hash out the first thing they learned about pandemics.
Yeah, and they're the pandemic specialists
Right.
for the United States military. But just having a chat. It's like, yeah, you're a real asshole. Yeah. Do you think? Yeah.
So let's see what Steve S. says. Actually, the FBI has just opened up an AA investigation on the origins of the year of the coronavirus, I guess. And then Stephanie said that meanwhile, most things we consume are from China.
Yeah. Yeah.
He continued of the origins of the virus.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean, absolutely, most thing we do have is from China, and I saw a video of some Chinese guy supposedly. I might have actually mentioned this before, but
Hmm.
supposedly rubbing masks on his feet, and so there's just kind of this like vitriol. This is this. Um, it's they don't have our best interests in mind.
Hmm.
So if you've got a pandemic over there, there's no quality checks. There's no you just don't know what you're getting.
Well, and I think to an extent that's true. I also think that there's probably a lot of younger people because I have a friend who is Chinese or half Chinese, and she
From
went to
China?
China. She
Okay,
went to
she went to
China
China.
for to be an au pair or whatever, like
What is that even?
take care of kids.
Oh, okay.
So like where you're a live-in nanny and
Sure.
housekeeper sort of thing. And she was surprised because and this was within the last 7 years or somewhere in there, so fairly recently. But she was surprised by how progressive that the younger people are. So the
I'm
younger people
sure.
don't have this feeling towards us. So I don't know how old the guy is rubbing his,
I mean, he looked like he was in his 20s or 30s, but
yeah, and
but they also age very well, so who knows?
that's true.
It
Yeah.
it is true.
Roma, you racist.
It's
Yeah.
just kind of one of their
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
yeah.
Black don't crack, Roma. Brack don't clack. You know what I'm saying, Roma? Did you get that one?
No, I didn't.
Brack
Brack?
don't clack.
Ah, okay, get it.
Never mind. So so yeah, but I guess the older people do tend to be that more conservative, they just grew up under
They're
a lot of
nationalists.
communism.
I mean, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just they know what they know. They do what they're told to do, and it's
Mhm.
just it is what it is. I think in a situation like that, it's best not to make waves. And I think most human beings feel that way.
Mhm.
But I think America, in particular, we tend to be more of a rebellious
Yeah.
nation because that's what we were built on.
Yeah.
Where I don't think you can really say that about most, if any other nations. I don't
Well, just like our Australian listeners are a bunch of criminals.
exactly.
Goddamn dirty
Can't
criminals.
yeah, can't trust them as far as you can throw them.
That's right.
Steph said last time it was the Russians messing with the election. Is it China this time?
Well, that
Who
is an
knows?
interesting. Yeah, oh, absolutely. Though I'm sure. Well, they're calling Trump a racist. I mean, that's their best interest, I would say. With the Kung Flu. But it is interesting because everything is so interconnected now, and I think that's probably
Well, that's the whole globalism, ideology is that we're going to have this like utopia where we're all one in the world, and it's just not. Our cultures and our belief systems are so varied
Mhm.
that I just don't think that it is doable. I mean, so I just saw a video the other day, and it was some woman. She had gone through a Dunkin' Donuts. I'm assuming it's the East Coast. And did you see this video?
Yes.
And she's bitching about how they spit in her drink or whatever, and the one guy's calling her racist, and then she's calling him a racist. And it's like, if that happens at Dunkin' Donuts in America,
Mhm.
how do you think the rest of the world is going to get along together? It's just not going to happen. Like, we are just not, as human beings, we are just made for strife and conflict. It's just, if you have a bad day, then it's so and so's fault because of so and they did this and they did that, and Americans, not Americans, but human beings, we generalize.
Mhm.
There's a reason there's stereotypes and stuff like that, and so like it's not even necessarily a racist thing. It can
Mhm.
be an ageist thing or a economical thing or whatever, and you're going to pick a fight and stand that ground and die on that hill, and it just really doesn't matter. It could be anything. You're always going to have strife and conflict, always.
Well, and I think that's rooted in like tribalism. So we're
Exactly.
designed to pick our tribe and then stick with them. And the funny thing about it is how would we look if there wasn't another? If there wasn't an other?
Right.
What
Well, you have
we would
to.
divide within ourselves.
Yes.
right? Because and look at that. So yeah, if you did get this unified we are the world sort of thing.
Well, none of us are ever going to be content. It's just not the human condition. You're always feel uncontent. That's why we're consumers. That's why, we have a hard time, especially nowadays, with morals changing, with being monogamous and things of that nature, is that you are not happy unto yourself. And so it's got to be something outside of you that is causing the problem.
Yeah.
And so if it's your spouse, if it's your money, if it's your race, if it's your, gender, like whatever it is, it's something outside of you that is the problem. And it's not you inherently. Some people, I think, probably are enlightened enough to know that, but the majority of people, 99.8% of people don't fucking get it. And so that they are going to project, there's problems in the world and it's not me, and so we live in a fallen society if you're going to go from a biblical standpoint. And so it's impossible for us to sit there and take on the responsibility and be be responsible and not push it outward. And so having said that, I think that this whole like global, unity, this one love, this kind of thing, it's just impossible. It really is. Because even as something as so insignificant as, oh, it's my wife's fault that I'm unhappy. It's my parents' fault that I'm unhappy. It's my dog's fault because he keeps pissing on the floor. It doesn't even matter. Like you just anything. I don't have a nice enough car. I don't make enough money. I don't, there's all these reasons that you can come up with. Why aren't I more talented? How come I'm not as good enough as an artist? Whatever it is, you can pick something out of a list that goes on forever. And so it's just impossible for us to all get along as one. It's not the human condition.
Well, yeah, and I totally agree. I think that was very well put. We can internalize and we can externalize. So like I can look at myself and go, I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. And it comes off as whatever depression or those types of things. So there's always that. Kind of, I think people are prone more or less to that. I think it's a bad habit you can be in. So I think that negative talk is just as bad of a habit as going, oh, well, why didn't those people, why'd they park their car wrong? Why did this happen? Why did that, it's everybody else's fault that everything happens. I'm late because of you and this and that, you can blame anybody for anything. The problem is when people start using, I guess, what they see as wrong in the world, and they start to go onto social media and those sorts of things and blame other people and start gathering movements with other people that are like them. Because prior to that, they were just miserable people that you would not want to be around, and they would kind of find each other and you could separate yourself. Well, then once those miserable people started blaming everything, blaming racism on someone saying a word rather than on, ignorance, the differences between people, whatever it is. There's a lot of stuff that goes into each of those categories. So I think it's our responsibilities to try to be content, because it's so easy to be negative about everything in your life, but it's a much more active process to look at things as I may benefit from this in some way. And kind of like you brought up with the virus. Wow, maybe we'll bring, some of our jobs back in. Maybe we'll have some more control over our own destiny. Yeah, maybe we're going to lose some comfort and we're going to lose, the rip-roaring economy that we had. But the other option to learn those lessons is that we are in a full-out war to learn, and not a war that's fought in, 10,000 miles away. It's more fought somewhere at home where our supply lines are not right, and our ability to communicate and to see each other. What if an EMP goes off?
Right.
And we don't have the ability to communicate anymore?
Oh my God, that would be horrendous.
Then we're really isolated.
So, Sarah says that aliens will unite the planet.
Yes. So she brought that up while you were talking, and I'm like, she's right, but that is only temporary because,
Yes.
and then it's them and us.
Right.
So it's the
We
same
always
thing.
have a reason to bitch.
It's the same thing. Is they are them, so it brings us together as us. That's the only reason it works.
Margot says we're all responsible for our own happiness, period. Steph says that they own our phones and how we communicate. Rumor has it that your podcast might be sponsored by them, question mark, question mark.
Quick, beeper.
I
Got
said
it.
I said I wish. And then Steve H says that I'm content because I know that the virus comes from China.
China.
Chyna.
Yeah, that's China.
China.
Yeah, but I do think this is a great time that we could be brought together and we could make our make our relationships better. And another thing is the changing the way people communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've had such good ways to communicate with people, kind of Skype came out and people are like, oh, I can Skype my grandkids and all that.
FaceTime, whatever.
But have we really embraced that and utilized it and kind of brought it out to its full potential?
No, and only recently have I actually started quote Skype for, not to get too specific, but with some friends of mine. And, usually we'll watch movies together, do dinner together. And so now we'll do it through Skype,
That's awesome.
Yeah. And
so you just like set up your phone
Yep.
and then have dinner with them?
Yep, exactly.
all right.
And then you put Netflix on and you're like, okay, I'm on, 7 seconds, ready, 2, 3, 1, go. And then
Yeah.
of course you're always off by 1 second, but it's good enough.
Well, and if you put in your earbuds, you could probably not have it exactly the same, but close enough.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's
I
not
usually
like they're picking up your audio.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
you usually have a slight echo, but it's good enough.
No, that's awesome.
Especially if you watch it with the captions on.
Mhm.
You're just reading it anyways. And you're not even really listening to it.
Yeah. Well, and I think, we've talked about doing that on the show where we could watch a movie and then have a commentary.
And a lot of people are doing that now. A lot of podcasts are doing that now.
Those bastards.
Doing like group like movie watching things. Or...
movie watching party. Or,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's fun. It's a good idea. I think with 5G and all that coming on, it's really going to be a kind of a revolution for what we're capable of doing. And
it's forcing people. I was just listening the other day. They're just like, how many jobs are we doing from home that we thought we couldn't do from home before? And schooling and stuff. Is that going to up the amount of people that want to do homeschooling because they're like, oh, this isn't a big deal, and I actually like being around my kids, Or like, why am I going into the office every single day when I can literally do the exact same job around my family, and maybe I don't need to send my kids to daycare because I'm actually here with them? And so what are the long-term consequences in a good way from this?
And I totally agree with that. I think people being able to work from home, I think it's probably an adjustment period for a lot of people, but it is, you're able to exercise more. You're not driving as much. I mean, think about that. Think about the environmental impact of not having to travel and traffic. How shitty is traffic? And it's always shitty because of work, because of the driving.
Yep.
We could all drive gas guzzlers if we're only driving when we have to drive.
Exactly. Sarah says Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yes.
Lots of exclamation points.
The greatest show, I would say, of all the shows that have influenced my sense of humor growing up, it was Mystery Science Theater. Probably.
We have talked about doing something like that too.
Yes. Well, that's what it would have to be. That's what I would have to do. I would have to watch a shitty movie. Oh, speaking of which, Roma, you may remember this.
Is that the one?
That's the one.
Was it Rambo, the original Rambo?
No, Roma. It's First Blood, Part 2.
First Blood, the best of them all.
Yeah, but it was the Ultimate Edition from Walmart.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but as you can tell, it's not. Yeah. So, anyways, that's the one that I gave Roma for a Christmas
I
present.
loved it. I watched it over and over again. I've never seen it.
Roma loves it. Nothing is over.
Is that what that one's
That's from Rambo.
Yeah,
Well,
nice.
that was from First Blood 1, but yeah.
You should push it. Don't jam it on there.
No,
Oh,
it's
you
part
don't-
of the
it's
outro.
okay, the outro.
So actually,
yeah.
everyone listened for the outro. You'll hear, "It's over, Johnny." And
Nothing is
then-
over.
Yeah,
You just don't turn it off.
yeah. You just don't turn it off.
Yeah,
One of
that's
my
awesome.
favorites. So, Roma, happy episode 50.
Happy episode 50.
Thanks for being here. I think it was a good
Absolutely.
one.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to plug?
I mean, outside of, our usual plugs,
Mm-hmm.
what do we got? We've got Instagram,
Yep.
Facebook. We now have Twitter,
Yes.
which you've been on and writing ridiculous things.
Yes. Ridiculous things. That's all I pretty much do there.
I was
so
gonna say that's like your talent.
it's a gift and a curse. But yeah, please check us out on Twitter and Instagram because those are our two primary, other than the 10 audio program. So anywhere podcasts are popular, you can find the Sensible Sociopath podcast. You can find me on Twitter at SenSocSteve,
Mhm.
SenSoc Steve. And then Instagram, the Sensible Sociopath podcast. And then, of course, please like, subscribe, and
Share.
submit your comments here on YouTube.
hmm
'Cause-
Share with your friends. Let us know. We're on all major podcasting platforms.
Yep. And yeah, we enjoy having our time with you. Thanks to everybody, Stephanie, Hector, Sarah, Steve S., Steve H., Margot,
Dan.
Dan.
Dan says 50 more.
We'd love to, Dan.
Just for you.
See everybody.
It's over, Johnny.
Yeah, I read a survey once that like 98% of people die.
What?
It's pretty scary.
Europe would be a fraction of the size that it is today, if not for incest.
It's over. Nothing is over. Nothing. You just don't turn it off.
Content and stories and whimsy and a little love.
So they say the big one's coming. For California.
Rosie O'Donnell.
Was she a great big fat person?
That's right.
Have you ever seen how many clothespins you could get on your scrotum? You ever dabbled in the dark arts?
Guess what? I don't have to fuck the goats anymore.
It's actually quite a bit of fun.
Hashtag them too. I have no control over life.
If I had a keyboard, I'd be able to help you.
What dude hasn't tried to blow himself? 8 3/4 is totally fine.
They say that you can kill yourself.
Mark Hamill as a voice actor is absolutely phenomenal.
People get really, really hostile really, really quickly.
Rape and incest.
Oh, we started talking about crazy Joe Biden and they shut us down.
I got the ultra AIDS.
Nobody's got AIDS.
You're throwing off my game with your heartbeat and your talking and your breathing.
I have had to stop using my favorite poop phrase.
Why stop at 2 atomic bombs? Why don't we just do the whole thing?
Is this one of them left or right-handed coffins? Oh shit. Oh, that's a dick. Sorry, kids.
I'm airing my junk out and I'm looking bold. I've always been a fan of Evan Watson. After she turned 18.
After? That's where you and I are different, my friend.
I mean, I don't have a problem digging a hole and keeping an erection.
It's all about romance.
Texting, talking, touching.
Jumper cables and proper voltage, you could have dead baby movement.
Are you guys judgmental? Me? Not so much.
Bunch of Judas Priest albums. Rob Halford's pretty badass.
Yeah, I like Judas Priest.
You know he's gay.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.